Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer55551, and I am back with a video review. And for this review, we're going to be taking a look at Valkyrie Elysium, if I'm saying the name correctly, for the PlayStation 5. The game's also available on the PlayStation 4 and PC via Steam. And if you're interested in any gameplay footage, I'll have a link down in the description down below, or you can click on the card that will appear up on this video, assuming you're watching this on YouTube. And for parents out there, it's worth pointing out that Valkyrie Elysium is rated T for teens, for ages 13 and up by the ESRB rating system. Now, when people think of Square Enix, there's one name that tends to pop up the most for them, though, putting aside the whole blockchain and NFT crap that apparently they're pushing for and all, and that is basically they're known for basically the Final Fantasy series, though. But they're also known for doing, titles that don't have, the kind of attention that Final Fantasy has, but still basically has garnished and still has a following. Games like Star Ocean, Parasite Eve, Brave Fan Misaki, if I'm saying the name correctly, or Misaki Samurai Blade, or Samurai Legends, to be exact. So there are plenty of titles out there that Square Enix has in their library of games that like I said, doesn't have the same name recognition as Final Fantasy, but still has its following. And the Valkyrie series is definitely one of those series, though. I haven't really heard much about this series, though, until I tried it out back in, I think, 2006 on the PSP, though. Basically, it was sort of a 2D game that was basically a traditional JRPG and all, though. And it was a sort of a very interesting entry, and I believe that one was based off of the original PlayStation, though. We know that another entry was then brought over to the PlayStation 2, which acted as a sequel to a prequel to the events of the first Valkyrie game, though. And for the most part, the series kind of remained dormant, though, until last year when basically it was announced that Valkyrie Elysium was being handled, though, and being developed by the same folks who did, the Samurai Jack game, and of course the recent release, Wanted Dead. So after spending some time with Valkyrie Elysium, I would say for a smaller or a AA title to a certain extent, it's not necessarily bad, though, but I won't say there are certainly some hiccups here and there. And for Valkyrie fans, depending on your perspective, though, either you're going to like this title or you're probably going to hate it, though. So why don't we get started with the pros and cons, and we'll start first with the pros, though, and that has to do with the gameplay and the combat. And for those who are not familiar, Valkyrie Elysium follows mostly a action RPG route. In fact, a better way to describe it would be that it kind of reminds me a little bit of, Falcom's Y series, or the E series, which is known for its action RPG, and this one kind of follows in that similar route. You got a light and heavy attack and all, and you also have the ability to use certain spells and summon allies, though. Some of them can be used to basically solve certain puzzles in the games. Other can be used to help you in terms of taking out certain enemies, though. And you also want to take a look at what the enemy's weakness is. You can usually do that with like a lock-on, and depending on what weapon you use or what spell you use, you could do a good amount of damage to the enemies, and they'll drop certainly more materials, though, or gems, though. And you will need to use these gems. Some of that may be used to upgrade your weapon, though. Other times may be to upgrades like certain abilities or skills, or increase your health or your magic, and so forth. So from a action RPG perspective, though, this isn't bad or anything like that, and fans of the Yeast series will probably enjoy the combat in Valkyrie Elysium. And last but not least, as far as it being on the PS5, though, it runs pretty well, though. In fact, the majority of the time I play the game, it pretty much is playing it at 60 frames per second, compared to what I understand on the PS4, which runs at basically 30 frames per second. And this isn't necessarily a bad thing or anything like that. Granted, Valkyrie Elysium isn't basically a graphically heavy game like, say, something like Doom or Doom Eternal will be, though. But it's still nice to get see the game running at a good 60 frames per second. Nevertheless, though, it's certainly nice that they're able to do that on the PS5. So great that the game runs very well on the PS5, and it runs at a good 60 frames per second, though. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we'll get to part 2, which is the con. So we'll take a little break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of my video review of Valkyrie Elysium for the PlayStation 5. As I mentioned before, the game's also available on the PS4 and PC via Steam. So now that I gave you the pros, why don't we get started with the cons, though? And there are really three, or at least three cons I could think of as far as my time with Valkyrie Elysium, though. The first one has to do with the visuals in the game, though. And while even with it being on PS5, though, I would say visuals are kind of a mixed bag, though. They're not terrible by any stretch or anything like that, though. But I will say it looks okay or anything like that. There are other PS5 games out there that I've seen that look better looking than Valkyrie Elysium, though. I mean, it's not on the level of, say, like what Xenoblade Chronicles 2 was if you were to play that game in portable mode or anything like that, which, I'll be honest, the visuals were pretty bad in portable mode on the Nintendo Switch for Xenoblade Chronicles 2. So I won't say it's on that level, but I will admit, though, there are better looking PS5 games out there that I have seen that certainly look a lot better than this, though. But I won't say it's not terrible or anything like that. The next thing I do want to talk about is the story in the game, and the story isn't awful or anything like that. It's basically your Valkyrie following orders from Odin and all to basically supposedly try to stop Ragnarok and so forth, though. So from a story standpoint, it's not bad, but I kind of feel it's a little bit forgettable. It's not really one that kind of really pulls you in or anything like that, though. So I will say from the story standpoint, it isn't exactly the worst, but it's not something that you're going to be remembering for a long time or anything like that. It's not like, say, like a Zelda's with their story, or say Valkyrie Chronicles with its story and all that stuff. So I wouldn't put it exactly on the same level as those type of games or anything like that. So as I said, it's okay, but somewhat forgettable, though. And last but not least, though, depending on your perspective on this, though, some Valkyrie fans might be disappointed with this game, though. There are those out there who might be more comfortable with it in the RPG type of games that were back during the original PlayStation or the PSP or the PS2 era, though. Some folks would prefer that game over the action RPG approach they decided to take with Valkyrie Elysium, though. Now, there are those who will be okay with this type of game. They are okay with it going 3D, going into an action RPG kind of approach, and there's nothing wrong with that, though. I like the action RPG in the game, though, but I can understand why some folks might be a bit disappointed with this game if they were hoping for it to be like, the traditional Valkyrie game that Square Enix has done before in the past, though. Overall, I would say Valkyrie Elysium is sort of a game that it's good for what it is, though, but I wouldn't exactly say it's going to appeal to everybody, though. At its best, though, the combat is enjoyable, the action RPG, though, and the fact that it runs on the PS5 at 60 frames per second is certainly not a bad thing, though. At its worst, however, though, the visuals, as I mentioned before, are kind of a mixed bag. Some of the areas look okay, some of them don't. The story is not terrible, but not something memorable or anything like that. And for Valkyrie fans, depending on your perspective, either you're going to like this game or you're not. You're going to like the fact that they decided to take it into a 3D and do an action RPG, or you're not going to like it and you would prefer if they had done it in sort of like traditional Valkyrie games. But in either case, though, I don't think it's a terrible game by any stretch, though. Obviously, it's a smaller title, though, and it's more of a AA type of a title, and that certainly isn't a bad thing, and I don't mind Square Enix doing these type of titles and everything like that, though. But I can understand how some Valkyrie fans might be somewhat disappointed with this approach that Square Enix has made or anything like that. So overall, it's a good game. Nothing spectacular or anything like that, though. But I still think it's a good game for what it is, nevertheless, though. Okay, this concludes my video review of Valkyrie Elysium for the PS5. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about Valkyrie Elysium for the PS5? Do you like the approach Square Enix took with this game? Do you like it doing a 3D sort of an action RPG? Or would you prefer it being like the 2D RPG approach that past Valkyrie games were and all? Did you try the game out either on the PS5 or a PS4? Do you think it's a good game? Do you think it's a bad game? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off on the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And if you do like this video, I hope you hit the like button. I will appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icons for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You can do it through PayPal me or Patreon. Links will be in the description of this video, assuming you're watching this on YouTube. Oh, and also Steam Labs as well. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye!